The Anomaly, Tensura X Data Live, by Nocturne_Chapter 24. Whispers Beyond the Veil. Shidhu Pav at Ryzen High School. Shidhu sat quietly at his desk, lost in thought. His mind churned with confusion, unable to shake the realization that no one knew Rimuru in this new timeline he had created. Rimuru's seat, which should have been a familiar presence, was occupied by someone else entirely. And the seat beside him, Origami's seat, was empty. Origami's not here yet, Shidhu thought, glancing at the vacant spot next to him. The absence felt unsettling, a strange echo in this altered world where things should have been peaceful. His gaze drifted back to Toka, who was sitting beside him, looking unusually pensive. "What's the matter?" Shidhu asked, sensing her unease. "For some reason, something feels incomplete." "It's a weird feeling," Toka replied, her expression mirroring the uncertainty Shidhu felt inside. "Incomplete," Shidhu echoed, though he wasn't sure if he was talking about Toka's feeling or his own. Just then, their teacher, Tamei-chan, burst into the room, interrupting his train of thought. "Good morning, everybody," she greeted cheerfully, her voice cutting through the classroom chatter. As Tamei-chan started the roll call, Shidhu's mind wandered back to Origami. Was she just late, or absent for the day? Either way, something about her absence gnawed at him. "Next is Tanamachi," Tamei-chan called out. Here, Tanamachi Hiroto is doing wonderful again today. My honey," Tanamachi responded with his usual over-the-top enthusiasm. Marking Tanamachi as present. "Next is Nakahara," Tamei-chan continued. Shidhu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. He waited to hear Origami's name after Tanamachi's, but it never came. Instead, Tamei moved on, calling another student's name, as if Origami never existed. "What?" A deep sense of dread began to well up inside him. Sensei? What about Origami?" Shidhu spoke up. Tamei-chan blinked in confusion. "Origami? Who might that be, Itsuka-kun?" Shidhu's stomach dropped. "Origami?" One of his classmates, Yamabuki, chimed in, raising an eyebrow. "Is that supposed to be a name? Did Itsuka-kun fold a bunch of paper cranes for the teacher?" Hazakura joked. "What? He's trying to complete the Tamei route now," Tanamachi exclaimed dramatically. "That's so lame," Fujibakama muttered. Shidhu stared blankly, his heart sinking deeper. "So, in this world, Origami doesn't exist in this city. She doesn't attend Ryzen," he thought, piecing things together. "The Origami of this world must be living happily with her parents. She never lost them to the spirits. She never had to go through all that pain or hold that grudge. This is how the world should be," Shidhu told himself, but despite that, the weight in his chest only grew heavier. "Shido?" Toka's soft voice broke through his thoughts. "What's up, Toka?" Shidhu turned to her, trying to sound normal. "Are you okay? You look like you're in pain," Toka said, her expression full of concern. "Huh?" Shidhu reached up, startled to find that tears had silently fallen down his face. He quickly wiped them away, forcing a smile. "No, I'm fine, really." But as he smiled, a sense of loss washed over him. "It's better this way," he reminded himself. "Though, I wish I could see her. Just once. The Origami of this world," smiling. But there was more. One nagging question remained unanswered. Where is Rimuru? Even Ratatoskr, with all its resources, has no information about her. It was as if she had vanished completely from this timeline. Maybe she'll show up later, Shidhu thought, his heart heavy with uncertainty. Even in this seemingly perfect world, something still felt incomplete. In the spirit house kitchen, Shidhu was busy cooking, his hands moving on autopilot as his mind wandered. He was preparing dinner for everyone, but his thoughts were far from the task at hand. His gaze was distant, distracted by everything that had happened earlier. Meanwhile, in the living room, Yoshino, Katori, and Natsumi were lounging on the couch, their eyes occasionally drifting toward the kitchen where Shidhu worked. "What's the matter with Shido-san?" Yoshino asked softly, her innocent face filled with concern. "Yeah, he seems kinda in the dumps," Yoshinon chimed in. The puppet perched in Yoshino's hand spoke. Katori frowned, crossing her arms. "He has been acting weird since he came back from school," she muttered, but before she could finish the thought, Natsumi interrupted. "If he's that zoned out, it's definitely about a girl." Natsumi's casual remark left both Katori and Yoshino momentarily stunned. "Wah! What do you mean by that?" Katori exclaimed, her voice rising with frustration as her teeth clenched in irritation. Natsumi shrugged lazily, though a small, teasing smile tugged at her lips. "Well, I could be wrong. Don't worry about it." She clearly hoped to backtrack, but Katori wasn't having any of it. Katori immediately lunged forward, grabbing Natsumi by the cheeks, her fingers pinching tightly. "If you know something, out with it," Katori demanded, her eyes sharp with determination. Natsumi winced but gave in. When it comes to the troubles of high school boys, it's almost always about girls, she mumbled through her squished cheeks. Katori blinked, stunned by the answer, while Yoshino looked genuinely curious. "Girls?" Yoshino tilted her head. "Really? What kind of troubles?" Natsumi sighed, still trapped in Katori's grip. "Girls spreading weird rumors. Treating them cruelly. Guys worry about those sorts of things all the time," she added reluctantly. Katori's grip loosened slightly, her curiosity piqued despite herself. "That's it? That's what they're so worked up about?" "Yeah," Natsumi continued, rubbing her now free cheeks. "Like when you ask a girl to group up for a project, and she says, 'Ew,' in that disgusted tone." "Ew?" Yoshino repeated, frowning sympathetically. "Or when you pick up their eraser for them, and they say, 'I don't want it anymore. Keep it, like it's contaminated or something,'" Natsumi added with a sigh, sounding a little more bitter than she intended. "Hold your horses," Katori interrupted, her voice sharp again. "How does a spirit like you know so much about student life, anyway?" Natsumi waved her off with a sheepish grin. "Just bits and pieces I've picked up here and there. You know how it is." Katori, sensing she wouldn't get any clearer answers, sighed and finally let go of Natsumi. "Anyway, I guess it is obvious something happened to him at school today. He'll probably be fine if we give him some time, but..." Katori trailed off, glancing back toward the kitchen where Shidu was still silently working. His back was turned to them, but his mood was clearly off. "But it's tough seeing Shido like this," Yoshino said, her voice soft with worry. "Can't we do something for him?" "I don't know what to tell you," Katori replied, her frustration evident. She tapped her fingers against her arm, deep in thought. Natsumi leaned back with a grin, crossing her arms confidently. "If it's girl trouble giving him grief, it'll take a girl to heal his heart." Katori's eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't argue. The three of them sat there, exchanging glances, silently forming the beginnings of a plan to help Shidu snap out of his gloom. As Shidu was diligently chopping cabbage, he was suddenly interrupted by Katori's voice from behind him. "Shush Shido, I'll help," she called, her tone uncharacteristically shaky. Without thinking much of it, Shidu turned around mid-sentence. "Okay, thanks. Then, why don't you?" His words abruptly caught in his throat as the sight before him left him utterly stunned. He was so shocked, in fact, that the knife slipped from his hand and clattered loudly onto the floor. Both Katori and Yoshino stood before him, clad in absurdly skimpy maid aprons over swimsuits, their faces beet red with embarrassment. Their bodies, somehow altered, now sported significantly fuller breasts, a clear indication of Natsumi's angel at work. Despite their flushed faces, there was a determined look in their eyes, as if they were fully committed to this bizarre display. What kind of outfit is that? And what happened to your bodies?" Shidu stammered, his face burning with a mix of confusion and embarrassment. Katori fidgeted nervously, crossing her arms over her chest, clearly trying to act tough despite her discomfort. What does it matter to you?" she retorted, her voice wavering. "Why yeah," Yoshino chimed in softly, her cheeks glowing pink as she shyly avoided his gaze. "What's important is that we're here to help you out." Without warning, both girls stepped closer, each of them gently wrapping an arm around Shidu's. The sudden physical contact made his heart race, and a deep blush crept up his neck. What? Shidu stuttered, his face now a bright shade of red. "Natsumi, is this your doing?" He turned his head to address the mastermind, who was peeking from behind the couch with a smirk, though notably in a regular maid outfit, very unlike what Katori and Yoshino were wearing. Natsumi raised her hands defensively, her grin mischievous. "Hey, I'm innocent. I'm wearing a normal maid outfit, see?" she called back, clearly enjoying the chaos unfolding before her. Kotori's eye twitched in anger, her patience wearing thin. Wait a second. Why aren't you wearing this ridiculous swimsuit maid combo? We agreed to do this together, she demanded furiously. Yeah, well. Natsumi shrugged, waving her hand dismissively. When I actually thought about it, wearing something like that felt way too embarrassing. I'd feel like a total idiot. You're the one who gave us these stupid outfits. Kotori's voice grew louder, her frustration mounting. You little. We're not letting you off the hook. You're gonna wear one, too. Kotori lunged at Natsumi, her temper flaring. You're not getting away with this. Ah, I'm being violated. Natsumi cried out dramatically, throwing her hands up to shield herself as Kotori closed in on her. Shidu, still flustered by the absurd situation, sighed heavily. Would you all just? He pinched the bridge of his nose in exasperation, but before he could finish his thought, the chaos in the kitchen reached its peak. In the midst of their bickering and Kotori's attempts to tackle Natsumi, Yoshino lost her balance, and before anyone could react, she stumbled forward. Her momentum caused Kotori to trip over her, which in turn sent Natsumi crashing into the pile. The next thing Shidu knew, all three girls were toppling into him. Shidu barely had time to react before they all collided with him, sending the four of them sprawling to the floor in a tangled heap. They landed with a dull thud, knocking over the chopping board and sending vegetables skidding across the floor. Shidu found himself at the bottom of the pile, completely overwhelmed by the weight of the girls pressing down on him. His face flushed deeper as he struggled to process the absurdity of the situation. After the chaotic incident in the kitchen, everything had returned to normal, or as normal as things could be. Yoshino and Kotori's bodies had reverted back to their usual forms, and their outfits were once again their typical clothing. Shidu, however, wasn't so lucky, holding a bag of ice against his forehead. The cause of his discomfort? Kotori's unintentional, but very painful, crotch-to-face collision during their fall. All three girls knelt on the ground before him, their heads lowered in apology as Shidu, with a wearied expression, scolded them lightly. You guys are seriously killing me here, Shidu muttered, though his voice held more exasperation than anger. Kotori, crossing her arms defensively but still feeling guilty, huffed. HMPH. Yeah, sorry about that. Didn't mean for it to end like that. I'm really sorry, Shido-san. Yoshino added, her eyes soft with genuine remorse. Yeah, sorry about the crash landing, Natsumi said half-heartedly, still feeling awkward about how everything had spiraled out of control. Shidu looked at the three of them and sighed, lowering the ice pack from his head. It's fine. I guess I'm the one who should apologize. I didn't mean to make you all worry about me like that. But, thanks, I'm feeling better now. Kotori's gaze hardened as she stood up, her demeanor shifting from embarrassed to serious. Still, I don't want to pry too much into what's bothering you, Shidu, but you've got to get a grip. You never know when another spirit will appear. Yeah, I know, Shidu replied, rubbing his neck. I'll be ready. Kotori narrowed her eyes, a flicker of concern crossing her face. You better be. There are still spirits we haven't encountered yet, and don't forget, Kurumi is still out there, and so is Devil. That last word sent a jolt through Shidu. Devil? He blinked, utterly confused. Wait, what spirit is that? I've never heard of a spirit called Devil before. Kotori shot him a look of disbelief. What are you talking about? The spirit hunter. Devil. She's as dangerous as Kurumi, if not more so. As dangerous as Kurumi, Shidu repeated, trying to process what she was saying. His confusion only deepened, as if something important was missing from his memory. But I've never heard of her. Are you sure? Kotori's expression grew even more frustrated, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Are you serious right now? It's like you've forgotten everything up until yesterday. What's gotten into you? Shidu furrowed his brow, completely at a loss. I'm serious. I don't remember anything about a spirit named Devil. Could you explain it again? Kotori paused for a moment, trying to read his expression. She seemed hesitant, as though she wasn't sure whether he was joking or genuinely confused. Finally, she sighed and relented. Devil. We've confirmed her existence, but she's elusive. Not much is known about her other than the fact that she's just as much of a threat as Kurumi. She hunts other spirits. Shidu was about to ask more when Katori's phone suddenly buzzed, cutting the conversation short. Her face went from neutral to serious in an instant as she glanced at the screen. The call was from Ratatosker, and judging by the tone of the message, it seemed urgent. Huh? Katori exclaimed, her eyes widening in alarm. Her sudden outburst startled everyone in the room. Yoshino, who had been quietly sitting nearby, flinched at Katori's shout, and Natsumi raised an eyebrow, looking curious. What's wrong, Katori? Shidu asked, his voice laced with concern. He had never seen her react like this to a call before. Katori, still focused on the phone, answered without taking her eyes off the screen. There's something going on. Abnormal spirit activities. It seems serious. Her fingers tightened around the device. Shidu, after dinner, I need you to come to Fraxinus. We need to get on top of this, fast. Shidu felt a sinking sensation in his stomach, a vague unease creeping up his spine. Even without knowing the details, he could sense the gravity of the situation. Yeah, got it, he said quietly, nodding his head. The mood in the room shifted from light-hearted chaos to tense anticipation. Shidu could feel it. A storm was brewing, and whatever it wasn't going to be something they could easily handle. His mind raced back to what Katori had said earlier, devil. A spirit he didn't remember, but one who was apparently as dangerous as Kurumi. And what was coming next? Rimuru Pav. Rimuru floated aimlessly in the endless expanse, her body weightless, arms crossed behind her head as she stared into the abyss. It was hard to tell which way was up or down in this bizarre space she'd been pulled into. She had no idea how long she had been drifting here. Time was meaningless in this void. Already, and the sheer boredom was starting to gnaw at her. Seal, have you figured out a way to get me out of here yet? Rimuru's voice carried a tinge of impatience. She had been patient, well, as patient as she could be, but the endless drifting was beginning to wear her down. Yes, Rimuru-sama, I've located a method to return you to the physical world. Ciel's voice, smooth and composed, echoed in Rimuru's mind. Rimuru's eyes brightened with relief. Finally. So, what's the plan? It will require a somewhat unconventional approach. You were pulled into a dimensional rift connected to an alternate world. To escape, we'll need to manipulate certain spiritual powers within that realm. Ciel explained. Rimuru raised an eyebrow. Spiritual powers. So they're the key to getting out of here. In a sense, yes. By subtly influencing the spirit activities occurring in that alternate world, I can harness enough energy to create a rift and open a portal. Ciel's explanation was calm, as if this was all part of a routine procedure. Okay, that sounds straightforward. What do I need to do? Very little, actually. I've already begun the process. All that remains is to gather the necessary energy, which shouldn't take long. Rimuru sighed, a weight lifting from her shoulders. Good. I thought I'd be stuck floating here for even longer. You'll be free soon enough, Rimuru-sama. There was a subtle playfulness in Ciel's otherwise professional tone, a hint that she wasn't telling Rimuru everything. A moment of silence passed, but Rimuru's curiosity soon got the better of her. So, what exactly are these spirit activities you're influencing? They involve minor adjustments to the spiritual power flows in that alternate world. Nothing significant, just small shifts that should go unnoticed by its inhabitants. Ciel's voice was perfectly reassuring. Rimuru, now fully relaxed, nodded to herself. All right, as long as it's not causing any trouble, I'm fine with it. Thanks, Ciel. You're most welcome, Rimuru-sama. Everything is under control. Ciel's tone remained measured, though the hidden amusement lingered just beneath the surface. What Rimuru didn't realize was that Ciel's minor adjustments were far from trivial. In truth, Ciel had activated Rimuru's skill Yog-Sothoth to subtly manipulate the very fabric of time and space. Within the alternate dimension, these slight alterations in the flow of spirit energy were already causing ripples, tiny disturbances that were growing into much larger consequences. The small shifts were creating chaos in the alternate world. Distortions in spiritual power were triggering anomalies, destabilizing the balance of power, and causing mysterious events to spiral out of control. To Ciel, these were merely harmless side effects, an acceptable cost to ensure Rimuru's escape. Rimuru, however, would be blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing on the other side. As far as Rimuru knew, everything was under control. And as long as her escape was guaranteed, she trusted Seal completely. Shido Pav. Shido stood in the control room of Fraxinus, the tension in the air was palpable. Katori sat in a chair with a computer screen on front, her usual stern, no-nonsense demeanor fully intact as she spoke. Rain, who sat beside her, looked as she always did, sleep-deprived, her eyelids drooping slightly, but her expression calm and composed. The activities started occurring this night, Katori began, her voice level but tinged with concern. We've been monitoring the region closely for any signs of spirit appearances, but nothing. And I mean nothing. There's no trace of Rarioku, no energy signatures we can track, no disturbances in the normal flow of the atmosphere. It's as if these events are happening on their own. Rain nodded slightly in agreement, her fingers tapping against the console as she added. It's odd, to say the least. The anomalies are happening all over the city. Small craters, areas with visible damage, but no witnesses. No spirit has been detected, no human activity to explain it. It's as if they're happening without a source. Her voice, though soft and almost monotonous, was laden with thoughtfulness. She leaned forward, showing a map on the screen where several spots across the city were marked in red. Each marker represented a location where an abnormal spirit activity had occurred. It was unnerving, so many incidents in such a short span of time, and yet they couldn't trace them back to anything or anyone. Every time we've tried to investigate, we've come up with nothing. There's no trail to follow. It's as if the moment the event occurs, everything resets, except for the damage left behind. It's unlike anything we've seen before, Katori said. Shido listened carefully, absorbing their words. It all seemed so strange. Spirit activities usually came with clear signs, massive bursts of Rarioku, changes in the environment, even the appearance of the spirits themselves. But this was something entirely different. It was almost as if the events were being caused by something, or someone, who didn't want to be detected. But how could that even be possible? Still, Shido nodded, trying to understand the situation as best as he could. So, it's like there's no pattern to these activities? Shido asked. None that we can detect so far. The damage is sporadic, random even. The only common thread is that all of these events have happened within a single night. No traces of Rarioku, no eyewitnesses, no signs of spirit presence before or after. Just destruction, Rain replied. The Rarioku Shido felt wasn't like any spirit's power I'd encountered before, except for one. Rimuru. My mind flashed back to the unique feeling of Rimuru's spiritual power, a presence that was different from the other spirits I had met. The way it flowed, the way it seemed to shift between the material and spiritual worlds, it was unlike anything I had ever experienced before. And now, this odd, invisible force causing destruction across the city. Could it be connected? But that didn't make any sense. Rimuru wasn't here. Shido hadn't felt her presence in ages. And yet, the sensation of this Rarioku, this spiritual power, was eerily similar. As if Rimuru's energy was lingering, or worse, being replicated somehow. Could that even be possible? Shido, Katori's voice cut through Shido's thoughts, bringing him back to the present. There's not much more we can do tonight. Ratatosker is already working on gathering more data, and we'll keep monitoring for any signs of activity. But for now, you should go home and get some rest. You've got school tomorrow, and we'll need you in top shape if something happens. I nodded, though the unease in my gut hadn't disappeared. Yeah, I'll head home. Don't worry, we'll inform you immediately if we find anything. For now, just try to rest. We'll handle the investigations, Rain said. I forced a smile, knowing they were right but still feeling the tension in the air. Got it. I'll see you both tomorrow. As Shido left the control room, the echoes of their conversation lingered in his mind. The abnormal spirit activities, the strange familiarity of the Rarioku, and the creeping sense that something, or someone, was out there. The next day at Raizen High School, Shido sat at his desk, stretching his arms with a tired sigh. Toka, seated beside him, noticed his fatigue and leaned in, her expression full of concern. Shido, are you still sleepy? She asked softly. I'm fine. Just didn't get much sleep last night, Shido replied, with a small smile. Oh, Toka murmured, though her concern remained. As their brief exchange ended, Shido found himself drifting back into his thoughts, the weight of everything he'd learned pressing down on him. Origami wasn't in her apartment, nor at the house she lived in with her parents. Before school, Kotori had provided him with all the information Ratatosker had gathered about the spirit known as Devil. A terrifying being, an inverse spirit, that hunted other spirits when they manifested. Why did she become a spirit? Why an inverse? Changing history 5 years ago should have saved her parents. Lost in thought, Shido barely noticed the passage of time. His mind spiraled with questions he couldn't yet answer. What could have happened in this world during those 5 years? Without realizing it, their homeroom teacher, Tomei-chan, had already entered the classroom. She stood at the front, ready to make an announcement. Oh, before I forget. We have a new friend joining us today. Come on in, please. Tomei-chan said, her voice bringing Shido back to reality. The door slid open, and a girl with striking blue eyes and long, silvery white hair stepped into the classroom. Her presence immediately captured everyone's attention, and murmurs of awe filled the room. Her beauty, accompanied by a gentle, angelic smile, left the students in stunned silence. Shido's heart skipped a beat when she spoke. My name is Tobichi Origami. Pleased to meet you all. She was supposed to be somewhere else. But here she was, standing in front of him, very much real. Let's see, the seat next to Itsuka-kun is open, you can sit there. Tomei-chan said, glancing at the seat. All right, Origami responded calmly. As she approached her assigned seat, Origami suddenly stopped right in front of Shido's desk. Her eyes locked onto his, filled with shock, disbelief, and something else, something softer. No way, Origami's voice trembled slightly, her expression one of surprise, yet there was a sense of relief in her eyes, as if seeing Shido had lifted a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying. End, Chapter 24.